Hi guys, welcome to a new video by myself, Sam Grafton. New way of conveying the hand history for you today. We're going to be looking at every hand that I VPIP'd in this tournament. It's a turbo tournament on Party Poker. In general, when I present hand history to you guys, I go through and select the interesting hands, the spectacular hands, and what have you, just because I want to present as much, in inverted commas, interesting content as I can, packed into the 40-50 minutes that we have. But that sometimes means we pass over so-called standard spots, and I think that some subscribers might be interested in seeing just the hands that I steal with, whether I choose to shove or raise, and going over the reasons for that, bet sizing in, quite ordinary spots where we just get a continuation bet through. It's not necessarily super interesting, but it's good to just re-examine so-called standards decision making and check that we're not making any mistakes in that area. Do feedback to me about what you think about this style, whether there's too much filler or if you think the hands will be interesting. I'm pretty confident, given how quickly we can pass over spots that aren't interesting, that this way of, filtering the information that we, filtering the hands that we look at will be of interest to you guys. So let's get into the hand history. Here we raise ace king. I think in general, you're going to see a pretty solid strategy in the early stages. In general, I'm concentrating on other tables in the early levels of turbo, and I think you can, play a pretty solid style, and that's going to be profitable when you're playing turbos. I'd like to see myself come in for a 2.5x. I'm trying to switch to that, but as I said, early levels in a turbo tournament, just having a robust style and coming in for min raises with strong hands, I think is absolutely fine. So yeah, we get called, and I don't slow play on this board. We can expect to be called by all his ace x, and obviously there's a lot of strong draws out there, and we bet a half pot. In general, boards where you're c-betting at a very, very high frequency, you're going to have to come up with a smaller sizing. So that's balanced against the fact that this is a very dynamic texture. Huge array of hands that have gut shots, huge array of hands that have gut shots plus a club, plus, backdoor flush draw and the like, going to be forced to continue here. So we, and are going to have outs to the nuts or ways of making the nuts by the river. So, we're downsizing, towards third pot because we're going to want to be c-betting a lot. But I think with a flush draw out there, and particularly the 5 as well, I think even if this is a 6 of diamonds, we can downsize considerably from this sizing, and we get it done. Next time we have ace king as well. A 3-bet for value, full 3x. This is the sort of sizing that I'm switching to in general. You can see this player still, they need 38% equity to continue, and so it's going to shut out a few more of their hands that are profitable peels against a smaller sizing, and I think that's pretty good. Pick up the JJs. You can see the robust style that I play. We do face a 3x. With some players, this is an indication of strength. This guy's playing 34-21 and a 3-bet. Again, now going over the 3x, which is becoming my standard. Now, some people would say, well, the problem with this sizing is it looks like you're never folding to a shove, and they prefer to use a smaller sizing at this kind of stack depth, where the opponent has 30 big blinds. But that's fine. They're still gonna, all we do by reducing the sizing is, we don't really encourage shoves. We just get them to be able to peel hands like ace queen, king queen, and the like, that really we want to put to a decision here and now. They can take, if we make it 5.5k, they can take a hand like queen 10 of clubs and put it into their peeling range. Whereas here we force them to relinquish that equity, which, we're not that concerned with them folding queen 10 when we've got jacks, but when I have my other hands that I do this with, 5-3 suited and ace king off, getting queen 10 to fold its equity here and now, I think is a good result. Sure, we do strengthen their range slightly, their continuing range, by making it bigger sizing, but in general, players, the other thing to say is we're going to be very polarised out of big blind. We're going to have very, very strong hands and some weak, like I tend to pick low suited connectors to make this play with. So against that polarized, like when you have a polarized range, you generally want it to go bigger as well. So I think everything leans towards this kind of sizing, and I'm pretty fine with that sizing. Here, this guy's all in for 3.5 big blinds, so we call with 5 deuce, and we don't get there somehow. Coming for a raise with the king jack. Again, I think 2.5x is fine. This is pretty standard open, and we get a defend. C-bet, half pot. You can see there is a little bit of laziness in my sizing. I tend to just press the half pot button. Half pot is absolutely fine, but I think we can shave a few chips off this. We're going to want to be C-betting this board at a very high frequency, and I think a slightly smaller sizing on the flop, and then going big on the turn with our continuing range is best. But we get the job done. Half pot's obviously not a huge lead there. Coming for a raise with ace-10. On the button, in general, I do like a min raise. I think 2.5x from earlier position, but minning from a button is good. And we get a board that's pretty good for the big blind. You know, I'm not actually raising offsuit combos at 5-7. I'm not raising 5 deuce suited in the spot. I'm not raising offsuit 4-3, 6-4, which they may be defending. Hard to know, depends on different strategies. The other thing to say is no better hand folds. Don't think they have ace jack, but like no pair will fold. We can get check raised on this board, and you know I probably would defend versus a check raise with this hand, but it's not an appetizing prospect. I think it's better to check back, and we get a great turn card and bet for value. And again, I think you can see a little bit of laziness in the sizing. I think this probably shows that, you know, obviously this is a very late night turbo. It's quite possible I was on a filing table or something just to make excuses for myself, but I think a bet of 5k is way, way better on this turn. We're going to have a lot of draws here. We're going to have a lot of weak hands as well. Like, let's suppose we decide to bet ace-4 now on the turn, or, you know, let's suppose we check back. Yeah, like, let's suppose also we have, like, a 10 without a blocker or whatever, like, where the flush draws are even more of a worry. I think like betting bigger with our range is best. It's also about extracting value, not just about protection. So if he has a hand like 4-5, 3-5, 6-7, those hands have a lot of equity versus us, and they're always going to continue for almost any size. Let's suppose he has, you know, king 4 of clubs. He's check calling any sizing, and we really want to put in chips good now against that part of his range. And I think that like a bet of 5.8 is way superior to 3.5k. And, you know, it's a little bit disappointing. Obviously, when I go through my hand history, sometimes it's like I know what I should be doing and don't always do it in practice. And also, the other thing is we get a lot of rivers where we can't get another street of value. So, you know, just exploitatively with our particular hand, not thinking about ranges, it's good to get a big bet when we have the semi-nuts on the turn, because this river comes off and I don't feel I can check for value. I can bet for value and I check back, and we beat Jack 6. Of course, one of the few hands that we might actually be able to get value from, but that's just being results oriented. 10-9 of clubs, we defend, and my opponent bets, and we're just getting a great price to call here. I think we can check raise. Obviously, we have a hand strong enough to check raise with. I would flat over pairs ace and kings here at a reasonable frequency. If I had a king queen, I would be able to raise that for value. I have all the queen 8 in my range, so it's not, you know, awful to have a check raising range here. I think you can make it 9k and shove the turn. I think that's perfectly legit. But my opponent is also just giving me a great price to call against this sizing. You know, I'm going to be calling with a hot, like every 8x, a lot of 2x. You know, some weaker draws, and also particularly like we're going to have loads of Queen X that we just want to call with, and we want to, you know, that's going to be our main response to this bet is to call. I think if I was going to check raise, it's probably better to pick kind of worse draws than this. So a 9-10 of hearts would be a perfect candidate to check raise here, because if we get shoved on, you know, we can fold reasonably happily. 9-10 of clubs, I think we're just getting it in bad when we get shoved on. You know, particularly worrisome as we can get shoved on by bad draws. So calling's fine. And my opponent bets the turn. And again, it's a little bit of a strange one. If my opponent bet 8k, I might be tempted to check shove. Here again, we get, more than the right price to continue against his range. It may seem a little bit passive, but I'll definitely lead an 8 river. I can lead a queen river if I want as well. And I just call, and we get a 10. So we don't need to do any leading now. We're going to have the best hand some portion of the time. I'll check, and our opponent frustratingly checks back king 10. Now, the thing to note is when your opponent is aimlessly betting a hand like this to a very poor sizing, we are going to want to, in the future, attack that turn bet. You know, he's taking a half-hearted stab. I guess trying to get us to fold, I don't know, pocket fours and some ace high. I mean, I definitely would fold some ace high to that turn bet. But, you know, he obviously has a pretty poor strategy and, you know, he doesn't really know what he's doing, I don't think. As it is, the frustrating thing is, you know, he's got us to point chips with a hand he's got pretty crushed. So, yeah, unfortunate situation for ourselves, but, you know, we were able to release all our equity for a pretty small cost. And, you know, on some there's obviously a lot of rivers where we win, a lot of rivers where we can lead. You know, just an unfortunate thing. But against this specific player, we now will start to make some adjustments. Here, I think limping is pretty good, but a shove is obviously automatically profitable. We're going to get called by worse. And way the games play at the moment, where people don't really ISO enough as bluffs so that we can get a limp re-raise in, I think is probably best. We get a limp and a raise. Someone playing very loose stats, someone that has a very, very big stat, I think that jam is good here. Power of the pair and all that. A little bit worrying normally to see a limp, but this player has VPIP'd. Like, they've limped 2 out of the three hands that we've seen him previously play. And we get it through. Here we come in for a raise with the King Jack. Again, I think 2.5x. I'm going to have a pretty tight strategy with this stack size. We can profitably shove quite a few hands. So I think making it 2.5x is decently superior to min raising here. Obviously, we get an amazing flop. And we continuation bet. I think that sizing up slightly from this is also fine, but it's a board we're going to want to see bet at very high frequency. It's a board where we have a big range advantage, so I understand why I picked third pot. It's just the fact that there is a flush draw there. I think with aces, you know, like let's imagine other parts of our range, king, queen of hearts. We're going to want to pick a bigger sizing and probably going to want to just have one sizing here. So slightly bigger is probably better, but not too much of a mistake. Coming for a raise with the ace jack, and we get shoved on. This isn't a great spot, but our opponent, with just 12 big blinds, I think we're going to be forced to call, and luckily we have dominated. Just going to see too much king queen, too many worse aces, a lot of suited aces, pairs and the like. It's just going to be fun. This is very close, and I think I prefer min raising. I think even limping is slightly superior to shoving. This is going to be a profitable jam. By the way, this guy wakes up with ace king, so I don't want to seem to be results orientated. I think that, I mean, I did play this tournament post GPL. I just played this tournament a couple of weeks ago, but I think that like Global Poker League really made me see that a lot of the best players, I mean, obviously I only saw them in 6-max confrontations where there is essentially ICM factors, but even heads up, I saw them like limp and check a lot of hands which as empty tiers we sort of automatically shove. And I think raising here and folding is actually probably, I've really changed my feelings about it, and I think it's probably superior to shoving. This is a little bit lazy. It will be profitable, of course. I mean, we get super lucky, but just because something's profitable doesn't mean, you know, you've got dealt king jack with 4 players left.